This is Elijah McClain. Big news on that front. And I'll show you this headline. By the way, all these stories are also up at radindiemedia.com, RADINDIE. I hope you use it as like your digital newspaper every morning. Just give it a check if you really want to know what's going on in the world. Okay, so this is what's going on. So Elijah McClain, Aurora, Colorado, police who killed Elijah McClain indicted for homicide. We'll get into what happened to Elijah McClain in a minute, but on the morning of September 1st, Colorado Attorney General announced that a grand jury has indicted the Aurora police officers and Aurora EMTs involved in the killing of Elijah McClain. The indictments come 2 years after McClain's killing as a result of the prolonged struggle for justice. In the wake of the murder of George Floyd, Elijah McClain's case gained widespread attention and protests in Aurora, demanding charges against the police officers who killed him. So Elijah McClain, real quick, was a young black man who was completely unarmed. It's unclear even, I think, why they picked him to harass. But the cops show up, they start harassing him, and then they end up pumping him with ketamine, the drug. It's a horse tranquilizer. And they kill him with ketamine, by ketamine overdose, which I think stops your, if you OD on it, it stops your breathing, I believe. So they just kill him with ketamine. And there was going to be hardly any investigation, any prosecution, and they was just getting ignored. So large protests started. On June 27, 2020, a protest of over 5,000 people led by the Party for Socialism and Liberation, that's PSL, most people call it for short, marched onto the I-225 highway, drawing increased national and international press coverage to the case. The following weekend, hundreds of people participated in a peaceful sit-in surrounding the Aurora police station. Mass protests continued throughout the summer, continuing to demand justice. Still, the Aurora Police Department refused to grant the core demand of the movement to fire and arrest the killers of Elijah McClain. In September 2020, they instead led a coordinated arrest raid on multiple leading activists of the protests. So basically, these protests are demanding an investigation into the cops who killed this guy, and instead, the cops go after the people who are leading the marches, peaceful marches. They held 3 of the lead organizers of the protest for Elijah McClain in jail for 8 days without bond, charging them with dozens of ludicrous felony and misdemeanor charges, all stemming from peaceful protests demanding justice for Elijah McClain. You might recall I had one of them on the show here. I spoke to her about the charges. Now, luckily, the charges were later dropped, but it was a very scary time. I mean, they were facing years in prison. Despite all the attempts to repress the movement, the community continued to monitor the case and demand justice. On November 2020, hundreds marched to the state attorney general's office. Today, it has had an impact. Officers Nathan Woodyard, Randy Rodema, Jason Rosenblatt, and paramedics Jeremy Cooper and Peter, oh man, can't pronounce that. Chikunikek? No. Just give it up. Sometimes you just got to give up halfway through the name. Each face 1 count of manslaughter and 1 count of criminally negligent homicide in addition to other charges. Elijah McClain's mother says, I hope they get life in prison. To be honest with you, Elijah lost his life. You know, he didn't grow up being a gang member, robbing banks. He didn't grow up being a problem to anybody. He was living his life the most peaceful way he possibly could. The police who killed Elijah McClain will now stand trial. The victory would not have been won without the mass sustained militant movement of the Aurora community. I mean, it's truly fucking incredible because this is just straight up activists working hard and achieving a prosecution of these cops. And I guess the paramedics were part of it too, and risking, their freedom to do it. I mean, 3 of these people were facing years and years in prison because they were persecuted by the police for trying to get an investigation against the police. So this both, this shows the efforts that the police systems around our country will go to cover up their crimes. And it also shows how much impact people like this can have, activists like this can have. Truly fucking incredible what they've done. And I think you should keep up with that story as some people say, watch this space. I don't know why I've always kind of hated that. It's not clear which new expressions I decide to hate and which ones I'm fine with, but that one, I don't want to watch this space. I both don't understand and I don't want to do it. I don't know if you can have both. I don't know if I can both not understand what the fuck you're talking about and also I'm not going to follow through with it. But if you can, I'm doing both of those things. All right, so that's update on Elijah McClain. Pretty incredible update. Okay, thanks a lot, guys. Please hit subscribe, and please subscribe at rockfin.com/LeeCamp. I'm coming to Los Angeles, performing in Los Angeles September 18th with Graham Elwood, live taping of our podcast, Government Secrets. That will be, it's at like 3 p.m. September 18th, and tickets are at LeeCamp.com. Just hit the schedule tab. All right, guys, keep fighting.